During World War II, Britain relied on a legendary fighter plane, the Supermarine Spitfire. It was fast, agile, and deadly, the pride of the Royal Air Force. But what most people didn't know was that this war winning machine had a fatal flaw, one so dangerous that it almost cost Britain the war. Every time a British pilot engaged in a dogfight with a German Messerschmitt Bf 109 and dived to evade enemy fire, something terrifying happened. The Spitfire's engine cut out, just for a few seconds. But in the middle of a fight, that was long enough to be a death sentence. British pilots were left vulnerable, unable to maneuver, while German planes had no such problem. Their aircraft used advanced fuel injection engines that allowed them to dive freely without losing power. The British planes, on the other hand, relied on carburetors, which were never designed for combat maneuvers, like steep nosedives. Every time a Spitfire or Hurricane fighter dived too fast, gravity forced the fuel away from the carburetor, choking the engine. The plane would sputter, lose power, and leave its pilot completely exposed to enemy fire. The Royal Air Force desperately needed a fix. Time was running out, the Battle of Britain was raging, and every aerial advantage mattered. Engineers, mechanics, and top military officials worked on the problem, but no one could figure out a solution. The British government had already produced over 20,000 Spitfires and Hurricanes, all of them with the same dangerous design flaw. If they couldn't fix it, Britain's Air Force would be at a permanent disadvantage. Then came the most unexpected breakthrough from a woman named Beatrice Tilly Schilling. She wasn't a general. She wasn't a soldier. She was an engineer, and she was about to change the course of history. Beatrice Schilling had always been different. At a time when women weren't even encouraged to study science, she became a mechanical engineer and a motorcycle racing champion. She was one of the fastest women on two wheels, often modifying her own bike for maximum speed. But more importantly, she had an unmatched understanding of engines. When the problem with the Spitfire's engine reached her, she didn't hesitate. Unlike the other engineers, she didn't overcomplicate things. She designed a simple brass washer with a tiny hole in it, which restricted fuel flow just enough to prevent the engine from choking. It was cheap, easy to install, and incredibly effective. Pilots didn't have to land for modifications. This fix could be fitted directly onto aircraft in the field. Almost overnight, the problem disappeared. Now, British pilots could dive just as aggressively as their German opponents, without worrying about losing power mid-fight. The tide of the war was shifting, and an invention that seemed almost insignificant had just saved thousands of lives. This small, brilliant fix became known as Miss Schilling's orifice. It wasn't glamorous, but it was one of the most crucial inventions of the war. And Beatrice Schilling? She wasn't done. After World War II, she went on to work on jet engines, guided missile technology, and military weapon systems. She broke barriers for women in engineering, proving that brilliance has no gender. But here's the most incredible part. Without her invention, Britain's war effort might have crumbled. A single small overlooked flaw could have meant the difference between victory and defeat. And it raises an interesting question. How many other tiny innovations have secretly shaped the course of history?